How's it going, y'all? Welcome in to another episode of Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I'm going solo today on this fine Wednesday. It's finally September. Mercifully, we got through through August when, especially the end of August, 1st of September. That's kind of the deadest period of the NBA calendar year. We made it though. We made it through it, and now the Dallas Mavericks will have training camp open at the end of this month. They're going to open it up. Well, first they're going to have media day in Dallas, and then they're going to fly out to Las Vegas for about 4 days, I believe is what our guy Mark Stein reported a while back. So they're going to spend about 4 days in Las Vegas for training camp. And then next thing you know, preseason play will be getting underway. And then, toward the end of October, the Mavs will be opening the season against Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs in Dallas. So it's all coming up very quickly. That's usually how it goes. It feels like it's taking forever. The offseason, the end of the offseason drags along, and then bam, it's all right here together at once. And it especially helps when football season starts back up, because then, if you're like me, obviously I'm a basketball guy, but I do love me some football too. And, that helps pass the time a little bit until we do get to basketball season. So it's coming up quick. If you want to read about, everything that's been happening lately with the Dallas Mavericks, be sure to go to Dallas Basketball and check out all of our stuff there. Now, we've been doing some different stuff with Athlon Sports lately. So, if you try the DallasBasketball.com link, we are still redirecting that. I'm posting all of the links to our work on my Twitter page at Dalton_Trigg. So if you want to go and, click on our homepage based on, those links that I'm sharing there and save them, bookmark them until we get the DBCom official link rerouted, be sure to do that, because, I'm sure a handful of people have the DallasBasketball.com, that actual link bookmarked. And if you click on that, it's not going to show anything recent. So be sure to go to my page and check that out. But lots of stuff, that's been going on with the Mavs, or at least in the news cycle. Most recently, here on Wednesday, we wrote about Charles Barkley and how he compared Caitlin Clark to a particular Mavs legend. And, spoiler alert, it wasn't Dirk Nowitzki. It wasn't, Luka Doncic. It was Jason Kidd, who's been the head coach for the last 3 years. Interesting remarks from Charles Barkley, and, great compliment, to Caitlin Clark, because, it's her first year in the WNBA. She's been killing it. I have another piece coming out on DallasBasketball.com later today that's probably going to be a little controversial based on what I've seen on basketball Twitter over the summer. And it's that, the Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese debate, who's the rookie of the year and all that stuff. It reminds me so much of the Luka Doncic versus Trae Young rookie of the year debate in 2018. I mean, y'all remember that, right? Like that was such a heated thing. All the talk shows were bringing it up. Stephen A. Smith, all that stuff. ESPN, everybody was talking about that. And at the time we were looking at the numbers. We were looking at, just who was the better player overall. And it was like, it's really not that close. They're trying to force, this narrative that Trae Young and Luka Doncic, it's a tight race for rookie of the year. And when it was all said and done, it was a landslide win for Luka and rookie of the year. So look, I'm not a huge WNBA guy. I keep up from a distance, what I see on social media. I don't watch a lot of it, but, I've watched enough, I think, and I've seen enough, stats wise and all that stuff to say that it's a similar situation. I think a lot of people are going to try and say that, Angel Reese is rookie of the year worthy, and she will probably get some votes. but I don't see her winning it. I don't see it being close. So I'm going to write more about that on DallasBasketball.com. And, I'll probably get some words from people who probably don't think I should be opining on WNBA stuff. But, it's just how I see it. That's what I do. I see something, I give my opinion, and we move forward. So we have several training camp previews already up on DallasBasketball.com. And I know it's early, but it's that time of the offseason where you're looking for stuff to write about, and there are several players, and we're spreading them out, throughout several days. So, if you want to look, I know we've got Kyrie Irving, we've got Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington. I did one on Maxi Kleber the other day, or Maxi's best days behind him. It's a interesting thing to explore. I did that Maxi Kleber one, and I think it's, worth your time going to give it a read, because we have a pretty good track record of Kleber not being able to stay healthy, which is out of his control. It's not his fault, but he's played a total of 80 games over the last 2 years, and he hasn't cracked the 60 games played mark for a single season since the 2019-2020 season. And he's 32 years old. So, obviously he's not getting any younger. He's got all these injury issues. They always seem to happen at the worst time. And then the worst part of it is when he comes back from those injuries, it takes him a really long time to kind of regain his confidence. He's very hesitant, just becomes a zero on offense. But as we saw in the postseason, before he got injured, there are times where he can be very helpful, like in Game 5 against the Clippers in the first round. Series tied at 2-2, Game 5 on the road, and Maxi Kleber had a game where, he hit 5 threes, had 15 points, and he was a big reason for the Mavs getting that 3-2 lead in the series and giving them a chance to go back home and close it out in Dallas, which they did. So he can still be a factor off the Mavs bench. Now, the thing is with the Mavs now, and it's a good thing that this is the case, they don't have to have Kleber. They're not going to be as reliant on Kleber as they were in the past. They don't have to be. So that'll be less pressure on him. That'll hopefully be a good thing going forward. But even if his best days are behind him and Kleber can't stay healthy, it's not like he doesn't have a untradeable contract. His contract is decent. $11 million for a guy, a big that can protect the rim and also hit some threes when he's healthy and confident. He's on the books for $11 million this year, and then next season too. So it's not long-term, and it's not like too much money. It's not like Tim Hardaway Jr. making $17 million just to, chuck up threes. So I think he's got a tradable contract, and there, if it comes down to it, there could be teams interested in adding Kleber for the short term. So that's something I'm interested in. That's one of the smaller narratives I'm looking at this season to see how it plays out, because ideally, I think if the Mavs, as good as they've done, adding Klay Thompson, adding Spencer Dinwiddie, Quentin Grimes, Najee Marshall, essentially to replace Derrick Jones Jr., Tim Hardaway Jr., and Josh Green, that was all great. But I think what will really tie this roster together from top to bottom is finding a younger stretch 4 replacement for Maxey off the bench. And I don't know who that's going to be. I've seen some speculation out there. I've seen opinion pieces, listing guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Jeremy Grant. There were, rumors about that over the summer. Julius Randle has been a guy come up in trade rumors, not for the Mavs specifically, but just in general. And, I know people have mixed opinions about Julius Randle, but I personally think he could be, a really good guy to have off your bench as a 4. There were times in New York, and it may not be the case now when he gets healthy, but there were times where he was just relied on too much. And we've seen that in Dallas too. There have been times over the years where guys are asked to do well beyond what their actual abilities are, and it hurts their perception, among fans. So I think Julius Randle could be a very good piece to have in a limited role off the bench. And, we'll have to see. The Mavs have salary filler to make a trade like that work. I don't know what the Knicks would want for him, or if they'd even do business with the Mavs, but that could be something to keep an eye on. But obviously there was the Jeremy Grant rumors before the season ever got started. And then, there's been some smoke about, Dorian Finney-Smith and a potential reunion at some point down the line too. So, again, several different player training camp player profiles. If you want to check those out, Luka, he was with Team Jordan, the Jordan Brand event that they had in China. He went to the Great Wall of China, which was great to see. It's funny, he did that retirement game for Goran Dragic, and everybody was looking at those highlights where he was giving like 2% effort, like he always does in all-star type games and stuff like that. And everybody was commenting on his weight and everything, and I was like, look, this guy's obviously wearing, like, if you, I don't go back, I'm not just saying this because I'm a homer. Go back and look at those highlight clips from the Goran Dragic retirement game stuff and look at Luka's uniform. It is very clear. Like, whoever had those uniforms pre-made had Luka's like a size or two too big. So it was extra baggy. And when you wear extra baggy stuff, you're going to look a little bit bigger than what you are. I mean, that's how it is. So, I mean, obviously he looked like he was a little bit heavier than he was because his jersey was hanging out and baggier than usual. But then, we get all these pictures after that. He's posting on social media in China, and the NBA is posting pictures of him from the Great Wall of China. He's with Zion Williamson and Jason Tatum and, all those guys out there. And he looks fine. He looks in excellent shape. So the people freaking out about Luka and his weight, stop freaking out. Go read that piece I wrote about about Luka being at the Great Wall of China, and it has a picture attached to it and some other details from that trip. But he's fine, guys. I mean, Luka, if you don't think he is motivated to be in excellent shape to start this season after what happened to the Mavs in the NBA Finals and how embarrassing that was to lose in 5 games, you don't know the same Luka Doncic. I think I know. Like, he's going to come into the season with a chip on his shoulder, and it's going to be great for everybody on that Mavs roster too. So, okay. So before we carry on here, I want to take a minute to tell you all about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. So if you want to play Prize Picks alongside people like Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code STEPBACK and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code STEPBACK on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, so there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about before we get out of here, and we'll have more to talk about, and then I'll bounce stuff back and forth between me and Coach Drew when he's back on here next week. But just to wrap this one up, I want to talk about Dereck Lively and, how some people have been irked by how much he's been talking this summer. And it's really, he hasn't talked a lot, but he's been in the spotlight more than usual. The Mavs have featured him. He's been around. So, I mean, obviously they're going to take the opportunity make content with him. And the same goes for other media outlets too. So, he was recently on a podcast with Theo Pinson, a guy who Mavs fans just absolutely love. And the topic came up, and it was actually a question that was asked by a camper, saying, he was basically asking them, is it true that guys in the NBA get playing time just because of how much money they make? And Theo Pinson advanced the ball, so to speak, on that topic by saying, absolutely, look at Rudy Gobert in the Western Conference Finals, because he was saying that, he absolutely shouldn't have been in there. And if you've listened to this podcast over the last several months, and especially in the NBA postseason, and especially in the Western Conference Finals, that, Coach Drew and I agree with that assessment. I mean, Rudy is a great defensive player. You don't just stumble into 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards. But when you get to the postseason, it is a different ballgame. And depending on what kind of center you are, and what Rudy Gobert is a very, very good defensive center who has no offensive bag at all. He is not a good offensive player at all. Now, he can set great screens, but he's just not a good offensive player. He's not. That's the fact of the matter. And you can't have that in the postseason, and that's why all of his teams in the postseason come up short every time. So, it wasn't out of bounds what Theo Pinson was talking about. But the controversy comes in where Lively chimed in. Theo Pinson was saying there's absolutely no reason that Rudy should have still been on the floor. And then Lively echoed that by saying 0. And then, Theo Pinson was talking about, well, if you make as much money, $40-50 million a year like Rudy Gobert does, you need to figure it the F out. And to which Lively responded and said, and he didn't. So there's a little bit of attitude there. And I mean, from a fan's perspective, especially a Mavs fan perspective, you would like that. I mean, you like your guys to be fiery and energetic and, supremely confident like that. But some people in the general NBA community took opposition to it, basically saying like, this 20-year-old kid who's barely accomplished anything shouldn't be talking about a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year like that. But to people saying that, I really encourage you to go back and watch the Western Conference Finals highlights, and specifically Dereck Lively, who didn't miss a shot in the entire series. He shot 100% the entire series. And if he hadn't gotten injured in Game 3, where he took a knee to the noggin from, I believe it was Naz Reid, and he had to miss Game 4, if he hadn't missed Game 4, the Mavs would have swept the Timberwolves. There wouldn't have been a Game 5. So, I mean, you go back and watch how Dereck Lively dominated in that series, and it's easy to see why he's as confident as he is. I have no opposition to it whatsoever. I actually encourage this. I mean, you want your guys to be like this. And let's be honest, Rudy Gobert's not going to do anything about it. He's not. I mean, that might sound disrespectful, but I mean, it's not. I mean, we know who Rudy Gobert is. No disrespect to him or his resume. Like I said, great defensive player, one of the greatest defensive players ever. But when you get to the postseason, it's a completely different game. And I would argue that Dereck Lively is already a better postseason player than Rudy Gobert is, even though Dereck Lively doesn't have all the regular season accolades that Rudy has. So it'll be interesting. It definitely adds some juice to the Christmas Day matchup. The Mavs playing the Timberwolves at American Airlines Center. You already had Luka and Kyrie versus Anthony Edwards, rising star in the West. And now, I mean, obviously you have the tension between Luka and Rudy Gobert, which has gone back several years. And now you have this little rift, between Dereck Lively and Rudy Gobert. So rivalries are always fun. And, this could be the start of, another full-blown rivalry for the next several years. It'll be fun to watch. I'm excited about it. But guys, look, that's all I've got for you today. I know it's a short pod, but I just wanted to come on here and give a weekly update. And like I said, next week I'll be back on here with my guy, Coach Drew, and we're really going to start diving into some of these camp previews, and we're going to talk about 2 or 3 different guys per episode, leading up to training camp at the end of this month. So I'm excited about that, excited to give you all more insight on what to expect from especially from some of the new guys, Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes, and, Spencer Dinwiddie, even though he's not new, he's a return player, but still the Mavs have certain ways they can use him this time around that could be different than last time. So very excited about all that. But guys, I appreciate y'all coming in and listening to us. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and we greatly appreciate it. We're going to be doing some giveaways throughout this upcoming season, so be sure to stay locked in and comment on our YouTube videos. Go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and put your social media at. So if we do a random giveaway, we'll choose from those Apple reviews, and you might be one of the lucky winners. We always do a random draw from our Apple reviews, and if somebody has won before, we take it's marked on there. We take them off the list, so you don't have to worry about having the same. You have better odds each time we do a giveaway because somebody's going to be taken off the list. So, guys, we appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of your week, and we will see you early next week. Y'all have a good one.